All right, it looks like we are at time, so let's go again and get started with the webcast today. I want to welcome you all to the Around the Valuation World on the March 16th edition. Before we get started, I just want to go over a few housekeeping items. First, to obtain CP credit, you must answer all the poll questions that pop up on the screen during today's webcast. If you have an ABW subscription with this, you'll receive the CP certificates within 7 to 10 business days after today's webcast. If you don't have a subscription and you're interested in joining for CPE, you can go ahead and click the subscribe button there in your materials, and it'll take you to the page where you can, or you can contact our member client services, and they'll be more than happy to assist you there. If you have any questions during today's webcast, please use the chat feature. Those will be directed to all of us, and we can address any of the questions you may have during those segments. With Around the Valuation World and the Around the Valuation World International Webcast, we try to cover all the hot topics in the industry to keep you updated on everything that's coming up. With the 2-hour window that we have, we can't cover everything that comes up. So there are links in the material for different resources that you can visit to obtain more information about the current updates and events. All right, and this is our ABW team. So we have Mel and Alina today joining us, and Brien will be joining us as well, along with the senior correspondents down below. And with that, I'm going to turn the time over to Mel, who will get us started with today's webcast.
Thank you, Chinda, and welcome to everyone on a March. I can't believe we're 1/4 of the way through the year already, but we have a great program lineup for you today. Again, we'll start off with the industry headlines with Janae Castell, and then jumping into something that I've started to explore a lot with Dimitri Imga and Colin Brown, talking about AI tools, agents, and software to build your consulting practice. I think this is a game changer for us, so I'm looking forward to it. And then Brien Jones is joining us. He's going to interview Janae Castell, Rick Gray, Lari Masten, and Pasquale Rafanelli, talking about the FT&T and the course. And then one of the favorite programs, parts of our program is the time with the judges, and Michael Kaplan's going to spend some time chatting with the judges, talking about when expert testimony goes south on you. Hopefully it doesn't happen often. And then we'll move into a court case where Michael Mulder will kind of walk through some of the issues in the case and everything, and we'll close off with Alina and Anna Graham talking about growing and building your practice, personal branding in a digital world. And I think that it is something we all need to be thinking through about how we can build a personal brand, not just a professional brand. So I look forward to it. So on to our first one. Janae Castell is gonna join us. She is a CVA and has been kind of a pillar in NACVA and the work that she's doing. So Janae, welcome aboard, and I'll let you take it from here.
Great. Thanks, Mel. You're too kind. All right. Well, let's just dive right into it. Our updates for this month include BVR's Power Panel highlights valuations gray areas heading into 2026. Feels like fraud. A looming storm, which was in the Journal of Forensic and Investigative Accounting, a special issue at the end of 2025. Getting active with an Excel add-in to boost your investigative proficiency, which was also in the Journal of Forensic and Investigative Accounting. I just really wanted to make this month difficult on myself. Making buy-sell agreements work, valuation mechanisms, and drafting pitfalls came out in the Mercer Capital Value Matters newsletter. Don't Get Struck, which was in the quick read in February by Thad Wilson, Jordan Liu, and Matthew Smith and some attorneys. So we'll get an attorney's perspective on expert witness testimony. Demodoran's warning regarding the Demodoran bot from the BV Wire. And finally, radio silence from the IRS on Circular 230 confusion. All right, so the takeaways for this month will be that there was a BVR Power Panel webinar, which provided practical guidance on gray areas of valuation. Financial statement reliability may be deteriorating. And then is active data a good option for you to increase your investigative productivity? Mercer Capital newsletter provided useful information for buy-sell agreements, and then attorneys advise on expert witness testimony. The Demodoran bot causes existential crisis, and finally, is the IRS playing hard to get a hold of with BVR? Okay, so BVR's Power Panel webinar in 2025, the last webinar in 2025, provided practical guidance on gray areas in valuation, including DLOM and controlling interest, highlighting the distinction between liquidity and marketability, continued demand for fairness and solvency opinions, the need for high-quality guideline transactions, as well as careful analysis thereon, AI in valuation, opportunities in alternative dispute resolution, the risks presented by confidentiality agreements, and year-end gift and estate planning. So if you're interested in some of these topics, you get a little bit of a highlight in the BV update on this power panel that occurred at the end of 2025. Okay, getting active with an Excel add-in to boost your investigative proficiency. Data analytics is revolutionizing the way that accounting tasks are completed and how accounting practitioners solve business problems. Cost-effective access to data has resulted in the emergence of specialized software tools to help accounting practitioners better identify trends, patterns, and anomalies. So since many people are very familiar with Microsoft Excel, it's logical to obtain additional proficiency with a tool using Excel rather than learning a new programming language or purchasing expensive supplementary software. This article went through 5 investigative tools that are available in active data: Benford's Law, Query Sheet, Pivot, fuzzy matching, and keyword searching. So while some functions can be replicated via like piecemeal Excel add-ins, free add-ins, or more expensive data and analysis software like Power BI or IDEA, the authors believe that there's great value in an inexpensive jack-of-all-trades tool with numerous capabilities for forensic analysis. Also, Active Data has well-developed internal logging capabilities for forensic analyses so that you have the audit trail feature and time-stamp notes for a record of tasks that have been performed, which is pretty nice. Okay. Feels like fraud, a looming storm. Expect deteriorating financial statement reliability across the board. The authors cite economic pressures, international turmoil, economic slowdowns, and high interest rates, forcing companies to meet loan covenants while making increasing payments. Weakened internal controls, especially accounting personnel resource issues, and remote work environments, creating easier opportunities for document manipulation. We've been in a quiet period recently, they say, so they advise heightened skepticism and expanded verification procedures. There were some interesting notes on the remote work environment and remote audit procedures and the increase or the decreased ability to detect fraud or identify issues that may impact financial statements. So pay attention to what you're seeing. Okay, making buy-sell agreements work, valuation mechanisms, and drafting pitfalls. Despite their importance, valuation provisions and buy-sell agreements are often treated as a secondary drafting issue. Mercer Capital recommends a framework they call single appraiser, select now, value now, and annually or periodically thereafter. Advisors should confirm that buy-sell agreements, at a minimum, address those valuation inputs that create significant risk of divergent interpretations and expectations, and therefore, where ambiguity may risk a successful outcome of the buy-sell. So those factors or those inputs include the standard of value, level of value, including discounts, the valuation date, and appraiser qualifications. So this is a first and a 2-part series. The second part is forthcoming. All right. Don't get struck. Thad Wilson, Jordan Liu, and Matthew Smith are attorneys at a firm. And so this was written on expert witness testimony from their perspective, from an attorney's perspective. They mentioned that expert witness testimony can be impactful if it meets, only if it meets legal admissibility standards. Ensure your case analysis fits the legal framework and facts of the case. Understand common grounds for exclusion, and ask retaining counsel key questions like, do the relevant contracts bar certain types of damages? What evidence will the other side use to undermine me and my assumptions? Am I valuing the company or assets on the correct date? What facts will the other side rely on to undermine my opinions? Your retaining counsel has a vested interest in your testimony being admitted, so feel free to reach out and try to get their guidance. And this was the guidance from attorneys. So interesting article, maybe a good update for you. Damodaran's warning regarding the Damodaran bot. Damodaran bot, as it's been dubbed, was built by a Stern School colleague of Damodaran's using his publicly available classes, writing spreadsheets and videos, and is able to effectively replicate much of his data gathering and processing work for his annual data updates. The realization that AI can do mechanical rules-based processes faster with fewer mistakes has prompted Damodaran to consider delegating most or all of his future data update processes to AI, potentially creating a system, he says, that could outlive him and continue serving practitioners. Damodaran suggested that businesses built on collecting and processing public information, public financial data, face disruption, and also that quantitative investigative strategies relying primarily on data processing and pattern recognition may struggle to maintain excess returns as the AI capabilities become more widespread. All right, radio silence from the IRS on Circular 230 confusion. So BVR attempted to reach out to the IRS to gain clarity on Circular 230 revisions. They submitted a media request, and after receiving no response, they attempted to reach out to the individual, the author of the proposed language. Still no response. Many are fearing that despite assurances in the preamble, the IRS examiners or the Office of Professional Responsibility could treat USPAP as the de facto mandatory standard for all tax-related valuations. That uncertainty raises the risk of inconsistent enforcement, potential penalties, or disciplinary action for appraisers who follow other well-established professional standards. So just be aware, this is an ongoing issue, and BVR has tried to reach out and has not had any feedback back from it. Okay, lightning round, a couple of extras because we never have enough time to get through everything that's going on and all the great articles that are out there. Hitchner sets out to bust the myth that the appraisal foundations, business valuation resource panels, new exposure draft on is the business appraiser you intend to hire competent for the assignment. The myth that will help, not harm the business valuation profession. He also provides a hypothetical line of cross-examination questions that could be taken as easy fodder provided by that brief or monograph, however they decide to identify it, which is unclear and will muddy the waters and throw skepticism across the entire valuation industry. Also, in its comment letter, the BVR Leadership Council urged the Appraisal Foundation to revise its exposure draft as well. There's been a lot of comments on this particular issue. So there's been, we covered a BV update article last month on this issue. BV Wire is published on this. I'm pretty sure there's probably some quick read articles on this. I know the NACBA has responded on this. So there's a lot going on, but this Hardball with Hitchner edition was interesting, discussing that myth. There's also another interesting article from Kroll on the Next Frontier, women's sports, right? So it discusses recent entry of private equity into the NFL and where institutional investment has yet to make significant forays, women's sports. There was an interesting discussion on the quirks and the intersection of women's sports and business investment. So many articles that we couldn't get to, some great ones. Jason Pierce had an article in the quick read on the risk-free rate. There's great articles in BV Wire. Make sure you're paying attention to IVS, exposure drafts, all those things. So much going on. Here's some extra resources, links to a lot of these articles, if you're interested in going and downloading and following up on these. And as mentioned by Chenda in the chat, I am trying to get a little bit of feedback on what is most helpful on these segments. So just answer these as best you can and let me know, and I'm going to try to tailor things to what is most helpful in this very short 10 minutes that I have with you. And with that, I'm going to turn it back to you, Mel, or Alina, whoever's taking it.
It's me. So thank you, Janae, and thank you for the clarification about the polling questions, because I was going to talk about that. So everyone, just make sure you respond to those. And now we have Dimitri. He's one of our correspondents. He is joining us from Alaska, and he's going to be interviewing Colin Brown. He's our AI expert and all IT expert. So I'm going to leave them with the segment right now. Dimitri.
Thank you, Alina. And that was really interesting what we just went through the AI, and we're going forward with that with Colin. And thanks, Colin, for being here with us today. Let me share my screen real quick. So it's kind of a little tricky. Okay. Awesome. So the segment is industry and expert insight, AI tool, agent, and software to build your consulting practice. And again, just like I was saying earlier, this is really, I mean, Mel said at the beginning, and also to run through the previous segment, this is starting to be something that we need to get really used to it and comfortable and know how to. And we're very lucky to have Colin here with us. Where's Colin? Do I see him?
What's that?
Oh, okay, awesome. Colin's
Yep.
here. Your video was out.
Yep.
So Colin is the founder and CTO of foreseennec.com and has been working with NAGVA for a long time, since 1996, I believe. Yes. So Colin, thank you so much for being with us today.
Glad to be here.
Awesome. So without further notice, I think we're gonna have to run quickly because I know we have awesome things to talk about. So many companies say they are investing in AI, but struggling to achieve meaningful ROI. From what you've seen, why is that happening? And what separates successful AI implementation from the one that stalls?
Yeah, so you may have seen some articles out there written that, that people are struggling to find ROI with their AI implementations. And yet I almost have to wonder if it's fake news. It's really interesting. I watch what people do, not what people say. So maybe people are saying, yeah, we can't figure out how to use this AI thing. But I'll be honest with you, it just in last week, just as an example, I think I had the most productive week that I've had in 40 years. It was absolutely amazing. I wrote an accounting software package with AI. I mean, you would not believe the things that I can do with AI. So whenever I get frustrated with a tool that's out there, I'll just create a new tool. It's amazing.
No, I believe you. I actually have been myself playing with that recently, and it's amazing. I mean, anyway, I'll let you carry that because it's
so
really
the other thing is when I say watch what people do, not what they say. So if companies are saying they're not able to get ROI, I have to wonder what it is they're doing. They may not actually know what, how to get some benefit from it. But I just look at what companies are doing. And that is, already this year, I just looked it up. There've been 45,000 layoffs in the tech industry because of AI.
Yeah.
So and of course last year I think there was 90,000 in 2025. So
and it's continuing.
Yeah. So I would not whatever they're saying, maybe they're interviewing small businesses. Who knows what the actual, whoever wrote an article like that. But definitely you can find ROI. One thing that we try and do so I'm one of the instructors, the AI instructors for NACFA. And one thing I'm always trying to do is figure out, what's an actual use case? How do you actually use it to, grow your business? That's ultimately what it's there to do. And so when I'm trying to create new courses, which I'm doing all the time, I am looking for, what are the ways that we can help the valuation community actually get better at what they do and be more efficient.
So there are thousands of AI tools out there on the market today. I mean, I've spent money on a bunch of little things on that road. So which one have you found genuinely useful for professional, and what makes them stand out?
Yeah, so let me just go over this real quick. I know I don't have a ton of time. I could spend hours on this, but
I know.
but there's probably some specific tools that I use on a regular basis. And what I did, in fact, this slide demonstrates it. It shows the tools. You're going to find that there's certain tools that you use all the time, and there's not. You can actually narrow it down to a small amount of those tools. But let me explain a couple things. First of all, I am using all of the AI chatbot tools that exist. So I'm using, OpenAI has ChatGPT.
ChatGPT.
And you've got Anthropic, which is Claude.
Claude,
Okay.
yeah.
And then you've got Perplexity. Perplexity is coming out pretty strong right now. They've got a new agent that you can launch an agent without any tech skills whatsoever. So that's a new one that you're going to be interested in. And then, of course, Copilot from Microsoft. Copilot uses ChatGPT's backend, but they're kind of moving towards Claude. They've been making some inroads there. So we'll see. In fact, you'll notice just recently, as of last week, it's changing so fast. Claude now has integrated with all the Microsoft Office tools. So if
I
you
noticed that, yeah.
you can actually talk to Claude in Excel and have it write formulas. You can
I was
have it
quite
do pretty much
surprised about
anything you
that.
want. And yes, someone's asking, do I have any experience with OpenClaw? And absolutely I do. I'd show it to you right here. I've got it on this desk running over right here. It's pretty awesome. Can it be done safely? It's a little bit scary at this point in time, but super exciting. I'm so excited. I probably will set up a course on that particular topic coming up
That would
soon.
be
I know
great.
it's a fairly technical topic. OpenClaw is a new agent tool that I believe will replace about 75% of all the jobs in America, and it could happen literally in 6 months. We're not
I
talking.
mean, not just job, like piggybacking on what I think was from the previous segment, they were talking about like data, commercial data and all that with research. I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah.
It's amazing. I mean, I used that in the evaluation case. I just did a bunch of research using Copilot and also ChatGPT and Claude, and I was able to compile enough resource and use them to be able to support my case. And
Yeah, for sure. Now, so one thing so I would say Microsoft Office tools, those would be, in my back pocket. And of course, you'll want to have probably the paid subscription to Copilot, so you get the agents and the other additional features. There is a new feature called in Excel that no one knows about because they can't see it, and it's called the Copilot function. So, in Excel, you can type in equals Copilot. And if you go into Excel, you can try it right now and just type equals Copilot, and you'll see if you can see it there. If you don't see it, it just means I actually just wrote an article on this. Actually, I'll create another article this next week in Quick Read to
please
show
do.
you how to get it.
That's really
Because it's anyway, I do post, so just so everybody knows, if you're trying to think, where do I get started, or what can I what can I do to get going with this? I would definitely start with I release a Quick Read article every 2 weeks on AI, and I am giving you really good nuggets of things that you can actually use that are actually beneficial for your practice. So definitely check those out.
So let me run on the next one so we can answer. I think that will answer the next question that I see a user has. So for business valuation professional who are curious about AI but not sure where to start, what are the few practical ways they can begin using AI today to improve their workflow efficiency?
Yeah, so here's my opinion. It's a race. And I know people are like, well, I only, what if I only got one paid subscription, which one would I get? And I don't want to answer that. It depends on what you're doing, because, and so Claude has got the best model right now, whether anyone knows that. So Claude is absolutely killing it.
So what do you think about Claude Cowork? There's that.
Claude,
it does all the work on your computer.
Yes. So Claude Cowork allows you to work. The cool thing about Claude Cowork allows you to, most of the stuff you're doing is out in the cloud. Claude Cowork allows you to work on your desktop. So it can look at files. It can actually analyze files on your physical drive. It can, read all your emails. It can do anything that you can do on your computer, it can do. So it's pretty fancy that way.
Having a free secretary.
Yeah, it is exactly like having an assistant. That's exactly what it is. So that's definitely a tool. That's an agent type tool that you can use right now today. It's easy to implement. If I were to, I'll tell you what, we don't have a lot of time, so I probably shouldn't show my screen. I was going to show you all the cool things that I'm doing with Claude right now. It's literally.
Can you share the link for your article? Like, everyone is really excited, and it looks like they want to be able to read. If you can, maybe in the chat later on, just
I tell you what, after my session, I will share the link to that. How's that?
Yeah, that would be awesome.
Um,
So,
yeah.
so AI tech, it's evolving really, really fast. I mean, like almost every month or so, there's like new version coming up. How can busy valuation professionals stay informed and continue developing their AI capability without it becoming overwhelming?
Yeah. So here's what I would recommend. Going back to that, I would recommend you get, number one, we've got the NACFA training that we're doing is quite phenomenal. Even the ones that I'm not teaching. In fact, I'm really impressed with some of the ones. For example, the using AI to help you prepare for litigation. I mean,
Mhm.
that course I think is worth gold.
Oh,
That's a
yes.
really great course. The other courses that are all, once again, we try and focus on things that will actually benefit you, so that you can actually put it to use back in your practice when you get back to work. The other thing is you need to have at least one paid subscription. So whether that's ChatGPT, which is, I'm subscribing to all of these, and so it's really, some people might say, oh, that's really expensive. It's only like $20 a month, so it's not that
Yeah,
expensive. But the benefits you'll get out of it, and uh, the growth and the learning, you're going to figure out you'll find out very quickly how to benefit. And okay, so somebody's asking, what's the benefit of the paid version of Claude? You get more tokens,
you get more tool, yeah.
and you get more. You'll get a
Co-work,
better
yeah, co-work
model
is
that will
included.
last
Yeah.
longer.
hmm
So yeah. So anyway,
So valuation professionals work in a highly regulated and defensive environment, often involving litigation. And what are the risks of using AI in this field, and how should professionals approach it responsibly?
yeah. So this is an issue. I actually have done a quick read on this one as well. So when I post those links in there, you'll be able to check it out. And I do videos on all my, as it mentions, somebody's mentioned there in the chat. But
Hmm.
risk is big. I
Yep.
am just going to tell you my opinion on it.
hmm
My opinion is that you should not trust any of the AIs
I agree.
at all. You should. So that means that you need to remove any client identifiable data when you're posting in financials. You're
hmm
probably safest when you. I want you to think about this. Microsoft has been able to see all of your data for a very long time. You've been putting it
Yeah.
into Excel. It's usually shared out, saved out in SharePoint or
SharePoint, yeah.
someplace out in the cloud that they could see, but they don't. They know that there's legal ramifications for doing that, and so they by default, Copilot, which is their
hmm
AI chatbot, it's got guardrails on it so that they don't train the models by default. There are ways, and I have a video on Quick Read to show you how to turn those off on ChatGPT. It's very similar to the same thing with Claude and Gemini and all of the
Yeah.
AI
I've
chatbots
noticed
out there.
the Copilot is very cautious compared to like Gemini. Gemini usually just go really wild and sometimes even just create things and just pump a lot of information out there.
Yeah, I mean, there's, once again, depending on the model you're using, there's just anything's possible, literally.
hmm
Anything that you can imagine can be done for sure.
And we're
But
almost running out of time.
yeah,
This is amazing. I mean, we can talk about this the whole day. It's
yeah.
just so. So I'll see if we can squeeze two more. So do you think AI will simply make valuation professional more efficient, or will it fundamentally change the competitive landscape for firms?
Yeah. I see a day. So everyone's kind of looking for that easy button. They want to just,
Mhm.
hit a button and there's my BV report and be done and, go golfing. I don't think that the day that happens, we're not going to need you guys anymore. So you
Yeah.
don't want that day to be too soon. And it's a little ways out. The thing that is you still have professional judgment that determines, you know, I'll tell you what, I've got some CVAs that I'm helping implement AI into their practice, and we're going through this process, and they're telling me that the biggest issue they're seeing right now is that they've got an attorney They've got a client or somebody, since they think they know how to use AI, they're taking their stuff and putting it into AI. And they're saying, well, I disagree with what you said because you say that it's this, and my chat GPT said this. And the fact of the matter is, we don't know what, what they use for the method. Are they using the market approach, the asset approach? Who knows what they're doing. And so this is really, it's an issue you're going to have to deal with, certainly because everyone thinks they're an expert on AI now. But we're still a little ways out, and your professional judgment is going to mean everything for some time to come. And it's going to be quite some time before a robot can sit in court and defend their.
Exactly. And that's the thing. If you just push the button and the report is put together, how can you defend something that you didn't put together?
That you don't know. That's the thing, is whatever models you're using right now, you should still use those models. You might be able to have AI create it, but it's going to be better if you just.
Like an assistant.
Yeah. As an assistant.
You're still in control. Yeah.
Yep.
So, okay, one more. So if you could give a valuation professional just one piece of advice about AI adoption today, what would it be?
I would probably start with I would get a paid subscription, whether that's Copilot or ChatGPT or Claude, and I would start to use it. And I would start actually with the AI Data University, the NACFA's AI Data University. I've talked about it on AVW before, and I'll put the link in the chat when I get off here. But it's got so many great prompts that you can start using in your BV practice today. These are the actual prompts that CVAs are using today, and they are phenomenal. If you've not checked it out, that could get you up and running with AI without having to know a lot, because you can just copy the prompt, paste it in there, put your data, copy and paste your data without client identifiable information, and run stuff, and you'll be amazed at what you'll get.
Awesome. Fantastic. Colin, again, we can talk about this the whole day. And thank you so much for being with us and sharing this amazing knowledge with us.
One
thank you for everyone for.
Last thing I was going to say, I've got a webinar coming up next week, and it's a new one. I create them new from scratch every time, but it's the AI powered valuation firm, a 30-day blueprint for revenue intake and intelligence. It's next Wednesday, and I'm going to show you everything that you'll just be amazed at the things I'm going to show you. You won't believe this is actually possible, but I'll let you go. I'm out of time.
Thank you.
All right, before we get started on the next segment with Brien Jones, and let's see, I just left. Let me share my screen. I just want to mention our 30 Under 30 program. Each year we highlight 30 professionals under the age of 30 to highlight their accomplishments. If you have anybody that you know that you work with, or any of your colleagues who may qualify, the nomination deadline is May 31st. We invite you to submit a nomination and nominate your peers today. And with that, I'm going to turn the time over. I think it's Alina who will be.
Nope, it's me.
Oh, it's Mel. Sorry, Mel.
Thanks, Chinda. Man, 30 under 30. It's a long ways behind me now. So it's so cool. Well, our next segment is Brien Jones. Brien doesn't really need an introduction, man. It's so good to see you, my friend. And
hi,
Brian's going to be spending a little time talking with some of our instructors, Lari Masten, Rick Gray, and talking about the FT&T and Janae Castell coming back on and everything. So I'm looking forward to seeing what conversations we're going to have around FT&T, because that's near and dear to my heart. So I'll let you take it away, Brien.
Great. Thank you, Mel, and hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's program. I'm really thrilled to be joined by Janae Castell and Rick Gray, Lari Masten, and Pat Rafanelli to announce the publishing of Business Valuation Fundamentals, Techniques, and Theory, the first edition. It is a core body of knowledge textbook that has been authored by NACVA and a host of instructors, board members, subject matter experts within the organization. This textbook will be used as part of the credentialing program for the Certified Valuation Analyst. If you all have taken the CVA training, whether recently or in the past, you're familiar with all of the materials that were provided over the 5-day training program that were previously self-published by the association. Since 1991, the headquarters has been self-publishing these materials, and in 1991, the organization introduced a course, a 2-day course, 16 hours, entitled Business Valuation Fundamentals, Techniques, and Theory. It was the genesis of the credentialing program as far back in the 90s. It grew and expanded through the years. Up to now, the CVA credentialing program is a globally recognized program, as is the CVA. And this textbook that was technically authored by Janae, Rick, Lari, and Pat is currently available through the NACVA bookstore. And we'll spend a few minutes with them talking about this textbook and some of the benefits that it will bring to our profession. So welcome, Lari, Rick, Pat, and Janae.
Thanks, Brien.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yes.
Certainly, I could spend some time introducing them all individually, but I'm certain you've met them before, whether on this show or have taken a course or a conference session for them. They've been leaders in the organization for many, many years. And so we'll skip the personal introductions for the 4 of them and just get right into our textbook. First question for you all. Can you tell us a little about the process for developing this textbook and what was the most challenging part about it?
Lari. No, that's not that Lari was the most challenging part of it, but no,
Thank
Lari,
you.
this is a question for Lari.
Well, to start off with, it was a multi-year effort, and it involved coordinating authors, reviewing emerging, guidance, trying to make sure that the materials reflected how valuation work is actually performed today, while still being true to, the fundamentals theory. And I think one of the more challenging aspects was kind of integrating new developments while still kind of preserving this, kind of the core framework that practitioners kind of rely on. We kind of focused on trying to ensure that there's alignment across, the book, bridging kind of that theory and the practice, but also trying to be practice oriented rather than textbook oriented, if that makes any sense. But seriously, like the time commitment was huge.
Yeah.
I clocked my time. I didn't clock all of it, but I had 381 hours as of January of this year. And my first time was our first meeting for the contributors was August 11th of 2022.
Yeah. It took a very long time, necessarily so. And the organization had not printed or published a textbook in this manner before with Wiley, whom we're proud to be partnering with. So it was uncharted territory for the organization and all the authors and editors and graphic designers and the team at Wiley. So we certainly learned a lot, and it took much longer than we anticipated. One of the benefits that, a side benefit of it having taken so long, is that the training, the textbook, is developed around the core body of knowledge for business valuations, which is the outline for the curriculum and for performing business valuations, and the basis of the proctored exam for the CVA. And so we were able to work with the authors to bring parity to this current textbook and our body of knowledge, which then informs the exam, the proctored exam, and so forth. So ultimately, the timing worked out, being our first edition. Next question. why was now the right time for releasing this new book? What changes in the profession made this update necessary?
Well, if I may, I'd like to respond to this. As I tell every one of the candidates who go through my classroom when I'm teaching, that business valuation is a very dynamic field to be in. It's in constant evaluation. So there are a lot of changes, certainly, that have occurred since this was first introduced by the NACVA, as Brien mentioned earlier, back in the 1990s. A lot of new material, a lot of changes in thought, a lot of changes in perspective. And so, even though we just issued this book, we're already talking about the next edition. So, I think that that is really part and parcel to the valuation community and to the evaluation, the performance of valuation engagements itself.
Were there
Yeah,
any? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Lari.
There's just been changes in resources too. I mean, the providers of the data that we use have changed. The databases, cost of capital has changed. Our models for cost of capital haven't necessarily, but the resources have changed, and even just the names of the databases have changed. And just to be dynamic with that, it's been a real challenge even during the writing of the book. Things changed and we had to go back and run edits, and valuation today is kind of less about applying formulas and it's more about kind of explaining the analytical judgments, and the analytical judgment also, not just behind this is the method I'm going to use and this is why, but also these are the resources I'm going to use and these are the reasons why they're more relevant to this project. And so we were really trying to bring in more of the basis for some of that, the core materials that we use, and explaining, the behind the scenes of why a resource, the merits of the resources as well. So I think that's a really important feature that I think this book has that I hope people find really helpful throughout the book.
We have a question. Will the textbook be a living document online, meaning that its content will be updated or an ongoing basis as necessary? We are hoping to have a continuing relationship with Wiley, where this textbook is updated in 3 or 4 year cycles, consistent to our requirements of updating our body of knowledge. Our CVA is accredited dually by the American National Standards Institute, accrediting board, also the National Commission for Certifying Agencies. And as part of maintaining our accreditations, we have to update routinely that body of knowledge. Our Valuation Credentialing Board does, and the associated exam. And so working with the authors, it is our hope to have a subsequent series of updates, but we're developing a workbook that will accompany the textbook that will be used in training, ultimately available for purchase, but not initially. That will be more of the living document where our team can add, published by NACVA, I should say, where our team can add content to it as it's needed. And the book will be consistent with the CVA training, which is our another question we've got. There are several contributing authors, all with varying experience and background. Why do you think it was beneficial in authoring this book that we had so many perspectives and authors involved?
Yeah, I guess
Janae,
I could
you want to
answer.
take this one? Oh, Pat,
Janae,
go
go.
ahead.
Yep. No, doesn't matter. Jen, you can go.
I think it's like anything that we do with valuation where you can't necessarily just look at it one way and there's not one right answer. And so it was, it's a give and take. And it was great to have all the different perspectives, but then it was also a bunch of different voices and lots of different thoughts and experience and positions maybe on something. So that was, I mean, that makes things sometimes tricky, but it was also, I think, ultimately very valuable for the book, that it's not just one person and that one person feels this one way, but it was a whole host of very experienced people that came together to offer their experience and knowledge and wisdom. Pat, do you want to add to that, or anybody else?
No, I think you covered it well.
Well,
Mhm.
I also think, I mean, if you think about it, at the end of the day, the the end product is a result of the collective experience across thousands and thousands of engagements that have actually been done, and from the perspective of different types of engagements. And so, it's consistent with what Janae was saying, but think about how many different engagements and how many engagements each practitioner in the authorship group has done. And so it's that the benefit from that collective resource of live engagements. I think that's just the diversity that's there
Mhm.
is just incredible perspective on the whole process. Which, you had the process, the pyramid up there a second ago. We didn't speak about that, but
We'll get to
I
that.
guess you'll
Of
ask us
course, we
about
got to
that
get to
sometime.
that. That's the meat and potatoes of the book. We're very fortunate, as Lari and the team is saying, to have had such participation from all of these authors contributing to one chapter or many chapters and bringing their individual voice and perspectives to this project. And it certainly was a lot for this team to work with our editor, Dan Schifrin, who also is the editor of our Examiner, to bring one voice and consistency throughout this textbook. So I just want to take the time to thank all of the authors, contributing authors, for their time, and certainly acknowledge that we could not have accomplished this without this team here, but all the authors and editors involved. So this textbook follows the valuation process pyramid. This was a step-by-step from engagement, acceptance, through the fundamentals of reconciliation and reporting. Why is it important for practitioners to understand that valuation is a structured process rather than a set of isolated techniques?
Yeah, so when you do evaluation, I kind of equate it to like building a house. You can't start with the roof, you got to start with the foundation. So when you look at the pyramid and you start at the bottom of that pyramid, it's engagement, acceptance, defining the purpose, the premises. So depending on the valuation, financial reporting as opposed to litigation, you may pick a different approach or you may pick a different standard of value. So you need to first understand what you're being asked to do. And then as you move up, you move into the industry and the economics, the financial analysis, the ratios, the normalization adjustments, all of which again need to be, geared towards what is that standard of value and what is the ultimate goal of the valuation and what are you trying to arrive at? Is it the value of equity or enterprise value? And then you proceed through the valuation approaches and methods, as well as then doing your discounts and then drafting the report. So it's kind of the building steps to get from the bottom level all the way to that completed project.
Yeah, like each step just informs the next step. And, at the end of the day, in valuation, the credibility or the conclusions that the evaluator gets to really depends on the credibility of the process used to reach it. And this, having created like the foundation of the book with a disciplined analytical process allows the practitioner to actually illustrate that process that they used, especially in litigation. With the changes in 702, the need to voice in the report what process they used. I have actually, used this recently in a report that I issued in a very contentious case to illustrate that I'm following given process in how I've reached my conclusion, my following proper methodologies, all these things. And I used the framework of this pyramid in my response to a challenge. And we just issued that Friday, so I don't know how that's going to go. I mean, it was kind of a week challenge, but I think it's going to be a great foundation for everyone. So I'm excited.
A lot of our guests probably are in the CVA and took the course, whether recently or some years ago. What would you say to the folks who have done that but don't have a copy of this new book yet? It's brand spanking new, literally. Distribution started last week, although there's been pre-orders. But what would be your advice to anyone who's taken the program previously as to why they would want to upgrade to this new book?
One thing I'd like to convey with regard to that is, and I've been doing valuations, 25 plus years. And again, I took the NACFA course way back when Brien described it as in the 1990s. And sometimes we kind of fall into a comfortable position of doing one thing one way. And what amazed me about going through this process with these other authors, with these other individuals, was how much I learned from them. Because, as was mentioned, we've got a lot of individuals involved in this project, which was necessary because a lot of individuals have different types of practices. And so I think it would be important for individuals to consider certainly looking at this textbook and keeping it as a reference for themselves. I know that there's a number of other textbooks out there that have come around. So we need to build kind of a library for our practices. But I think what I like about this textbook, and again, I know I'm kind of biased because I was involved in the process, but the fact that, as Lari mentioned earlier, it does take us from foundation to conclusion, and the steps in between. So I think that a consideration of looking at this as a way to maybe update your point of view with regard to valuations and the performance of valuation engagements would be important.
Yeah, the tagline here from the cover is the practitioner's approach to valuing privately held businesses. So it was our intention to distinguish between all the other resources available. And there are certainly some really great ones, but this one to take more of a how to do it approach, which aligns with the training for the CVA program. Were there any areas or chapters that were more challenging to update or to approach, considering how much business valuation, all those stays pretty much generally the same, but certainly over time, different economic factors or data sources or industry inputs, are the elements that generally change or fluctuate. But were there any particular areas that were more challenging or difficult than others to update in this textbook?
That is a loaded question.
Yeah.
I'll take a first shot. I'll take a
Go,
first shot.
Janae.
Please do.
I feel like there were some chapters that I was really excited to get in and make the updates because there was so much development in the industry and so much out there that we could really add to the discussion of what was in the existing materials. So I was really excited to talk in a different way about discounted cash flows or multi-period models. And I was really excited to add more detail and see, what some of the authors had put in on cost of capital. And, we get to talk a little bit more about what's happening in, pass-through entities and see how that's evolved. And so, yeah, there's some challenge in taking a lot and updating it and figuring out exactly what needs to go in and what comes out and all that. And it's a challenge, but I was excited for several of those topics and those chapters.
Yeah, in our previous material too, we didn't have a lot of emphasis on financial statement trend analysis and benchmarking against the industry and economic and industry analysis itself. And so I was really happy to see kind of more, adding chapters on qualitative analytics and financial statement interpretation, trying to, kind of form credibility as the foundation, because in a lot of, work, that's kind of an afterthought, that's done because it's part of our standards. And so we were, it wasn't difficult, but it's new. It's something that wasn't really fleshed out very well in our prior materials. And so kind of evaluating, interpreting data was kind of, I think, a kind of a dramatic difference between if you're trying to compare material between what we've had in the past and what's in the book.
And I think to piggyback over that, we also had new valuation tools coming out. BVR and deal stats came out with the pure play multiple, so we had to digest and understand those, as well as changes with the tax law and the QBI and some of the sunsetting and decisions that were made with those. So I think some of the challenge also came in that is that we were trying to incorporate new material that was happening in real time to make sure we were able to digest it and understand it and properly convey it in the book.
And you actually answered a question I was going to get to about trying to include all the new technical updates or analytical updates and technical tools out there, and trying to bring that current in this textbook. So the book is primarily designed for practitioners. Can you speak to the well, and all of you teach in our credentialing program to practitioners, and Lari and Rick, particularly in an academic setting. Which topics tend to be more challenging? And how do you think the textbook will help readers address those technical challenges as they apply them to their practice?
I'll start. I think burgeoning practitioners, I don't know if that's a good word or a good phrase, but they struggle less with math and more with judgment and owning the judgment. And I think this book, throughout the book, we pepper in practitioner pointers, and we provide some guidance, and we provide extra materials for additional kind of learning, and through appendices and stuff. And I think that the book helps I think it will help both seasoned and burgeoning practitioners kind of understand how experienced analysts think through their decisions. So I think when you teach, that's one of the more common challenges is not how to do the math, although sometimes that can be challenging. It's more how to have logic kind of flow through everything, putting like the big, 10,000 piece puzzle together and have it make sense, and just own the judgment and understand that it's kind of scary, but at the end of the day, there's going to be that aha moment. And I think we did a pretty good job of weaving that into the book. What do you think, Rick?
I would certainly agree. And also, I want to kind of touch base with regard to Colin's discussion earlier with AI and how important that's going to be going forward. And I think that we've kind of incorporated that in this textbook as well, in terms of making sure that the sources of information that you're utilizing in evaluation engagement are truly reliable and supportable. But yes, I agree with everything you said with regard to the fact that I think for many individuals who have taken the course, and I know even in my classroom, in the classroom setting, the more difficult thing I have to convey to them is the use of judgment and reasonableness in terms of developing a valuation, a conclusion of value.
Thank you. How are we doing on time, hosts Mel and Alina? Do we have time to sneak in one more question, or are we needing to wrap?
It's 2 p.m. You're
All
ready now
right.
to finish. Yes.
All right. Well, thank you, Lari, Rick, Pat, and Janae. For those of you who are interested, you can visit nacva.com store. This book is available in our bookstore, hard copy and digital. And as members, you do receive a 10% discount off the published price. So hopefully you'll jump online, grab your copy of it, and we appreciate the four of you for helping us get this book published and for joining us today.
Thank you so much,
Pleasure.
Brien, for inviting
Thank you
us.
all. Thanks for your attention.
Right. Thank you, Brien. Thank you, Janae, Rick, Lari, and Pat for joining us today and all the work you did with the book. As Brien mentioned, the book is available on our website. You can scan the QR code to go directly to the store. Get more information about the book as well. And before we proceed with the next segment, I just wanted to play a quick video regarding NACVA's comments on exposure drafts issued by the Appraisal Foundation.
News and updates from the Global Association. The association submitted comments on exposure drafts issued in January 2026 by the Appraisal Foundation.
On January 2nd, the Appraisal Foundation's Appraisal Standards Board issued the first exposure draft, New Advisory Opinion 41, Use of Technology in an Appraisal or Appraisal Review. It proposes to modernize USPAP guidance on technology used in appraisal and stresses that tools assist but never replace appraiser judgment. Responsibility for ethics, competency, scope of work, credibility, confidentiality, and reporting remains with the appraiser, and older technology advisory opinions would be retired. NACVA's comments agree with this framework, support retiring older technology opinions, but highlights interpretive risks, especially around intent-based ethics language. NACVA also urges the ASB to clarify that USPAP is not the default governing standard for all valuation engagements, recommends greater acknowledgement of recognized professional standards, particularly in business valuation, litigation, and financial reporting contexts that are governed by recognized professional standards that align with practical business valuation and forensic practice. On February 19th, the ASB will discuss comments received at its virtual public meeting. On January 5th, the Business Valuation Resource Panel issued the first exposure draft of proposed changes to Valuation Brief Number 4. Is the business appraiser you intend to hire competent for the assignment? Grounded in USPAP, it serves as a guide to explain appraiser competency, emphasizes assignment-specific competency, and early identification of intended use, limits credentials and software, and practical methods, such as interviews, to evaluate appraiser suitability. NACVA's comments support the brief's emphasis on assignment-specific competency, professional judgment, and intended use. However, it cautions against overstating the universality of USPAP, urges acknowledgement of recognized professional standards that align with practical business valuation and forensic practice, and seeks stronger emphasis on credentials, disclosure, and assignment refusal when competency limitations exist. The association's governance task force wrote and submitted comments on both exposure drafts on behalf of the association's global membership and credential holders.
Visit nacva.com professional standards to access the exposure drafts and read the comments submitted by NACVA.
Okay, with that, we'll turn it over to Alina. We'll get us started with the next segment.
Thank you, Shanda. And now we are going to have our segment, the one that we love with the judges. And I'm so excited because today we have a new judge with us. And Mr. Kaplan is the one interviewing the judges today. So I know you all know Mr. Kaplan. He's, when you see his bio about having more than 50 years of experience, and he just told us how many years he have right now. And it is amazing to look just like him. So I'm going to leave Mr. Kaplan, and he's going to be interviewing our judges today.
It makes me feel so old when you refer to me as Mr. Kaplan.
Oh, don't say
But that's
that.
okay. You can call me Michael. It's fine. Thank you so much, Alina. This is going to be a great segment because this brings a lot of things together for those of us who find ourselves in court giving expert testimony. Now, I know that we were going to be having a new judge to our panel, Judge Megan Adams. Are you here, Judge Adams? Are you online?
Michael, I don't see that she has joined yet.
Okay, well, when she joins, we'll bring her into the discussion. But I know that Judge Platt and Judge Yates are here with us. And
we are.
Very, very good. I don't think that Judge Driscoll will be here because I know he's traveling today. But those of us who find ourselves in the courtroom, you know, we take the oath, we take the witness stand, and we hope to give exemplary, persuasive, compelling testimony. But there are all kinds of variables going on, all kinds of forces, all kinds of dynamics in the courtroom. Not the least of which is we have an opposing counsel and opposing expert who wants to make us look like idiots, like we don't know what we're doing. So when we're on the witness stand, we need to take control, and we have to be as persuasive as we can and as well-founded as we can. I got a call from someone who was looking for an expert in a case involving a real estate development. It was a case that involved a valuation expert, a case that involved a real estate expert, that required a valuation expert and a real estate expert, a damages expert. And I spent an hour with counsel, probably 2 hours with counsel and his client, told them what I needed, but that it would be critical for me to have a real estate expert in the case. 6 months later, they came back and they wanted to have the same conversation all over again and explore my mind as to what I thought was appropriate in the case. And I ended the conversation with, I will send out a retainer letter. And just remember, I need a real estate expert in the case because my testimony is going to build upon his or her testimony. I didn't hear anything from them. A year later, I got a phone call. Michael, we're getting close to trial. We need to bring you into a case. I need to designate by 5 p.m. Please send me your CV and your rate sheet. So I sent out the CV and I sent out the rate sheet, and anyway, the attorney sent it right back with a check for the amount of the retainer. And he said, now, Michael, the next thing we have to do is schedule your deposition. And I said, no. That's not the next thing we have to do. The next thing we have to do is I'm going to send you a list of everything that I need and all the documents you need to gather together. And the attorney said, Michael, he said, we don't have time for all of that because the expert discovery cutoff is a week from Friday. And I'm thinking, oh my God, Michael, what did you get into? I mean, this case, it was just a recipe for disaster. Nothing good could have come out of my continuing with the case and moving forward with it and preparing and going into the courtroom with less than ideal preparation. And I sat down with the attorney and I explained to him all of these things that I told you I needed, including a real estate expert, which you didn't get. These are all ingredients for disaster. We don't want that to happen. So we've got to be careful. We've got to be careful. There are times that, that we make mistakes. There are times our attorneys make mistakes. So I am going to bounce this out to our judges, to either Judge Platt or Judge Yates, whoever wants to go first. How frequently do you see a witness take the witness stand and see the whole thing unravel?
More often than it should happen. I've always said that particularly direct examination should go smoothly, seamlessly. There should be a lot of prep time into it. I never put a witness on the stand without prepping the witness comprehensively beforehand. But unfortunately, you can tell lots of times that the retaining counsel and the expert have had precious little time together, and it's so obvious.
And that just increases the risk that it's going to go south.
Dramatically, yes. I mean, there's nothing worse than an attorney essentially feeling around in the dark trying to elicit testimony from that person's own expert, much less if they're not prepared for cross-examination, which of course requires time spent with their own expert to be ready for that as well.
I had an attorney one time. She put me on the witness stand. I was the plaintiff's expert. I was prepared. I had all my bases covered. She put me on the stand after having told me at the break that the judge told her that she had done nothing to prove her case up to that point. And she said, "Okay, Mr. Kaplan, tell the judge what you have to say."
That's
and the judge, and I'm thinking, oh my God, this is what I have to deal with here. And the judge looked down at her and said, "No, counsel, that's not the way it works.
Right.
You ask Mr. Kaplan a question and then he answers the question." And she tried another time and couldn't get it right. And it wasn't until after her 6th attempt that she finally got the question right. And I realized that that was going to be my only opportunity to tell the story.
Yep.
So I had to tell it from beginning to end.
Right. You know, it's unfortunate because a good direct examination involves steering by counsel, not rowing. They shouldn't be doing the work, but the expert's not supposed to be at sea while the retaining counsel neither steers nor rows.
I couldn't have said it better myself. My experience is that when you're on the witness stand as an expert, you do your persuasion. You tell your story, you persuade the judge, you persuade the jurors. During your direct testimony, during cross, all you want to do is keep the ship from capsizing.
Exactly.
You just want to survive. But yeah, you've got to be in sync with your retaining counsel. So, Judge Platt, what have you seen in terms of expert testimony going south?
Many different ways. And again, as I've said in other presentations, it depends on the forum that you're in as to how you can go south. And it also depends on who's deciding whether you went south. If you're testifying before a jury, that's one thing. If you're testifying in front of a judge, that's another. And the preparation needs to recognize that and research that. You can only research a jury so much unless you have unlimited resources to hire somebody to research them. But the lack of preparation, I mean, it's a cliche, but that's prepare. And I suspect that when we begin to talk, or as we are talking about the ways that it could go south, hiring counsel is always a suspect. But it is kind of your responsibility as an expert to steer retaining counsel in the right direction if they're not already there. And many times, as Judge Yates said, they're not. The good lawyers are always there. The bad ones are struggling for a living. That's who called you at the last minute because they didn't want to spend the money until they had to. And and when they do, it's too late.
I think that there are too many attorneys who see their experts as just plug and play pieces of the case rather than as partners in the entire process. And I know we've talked about this a lot before, Michael, and I know you understand this fully, but boy, I mean, if you have a retaining counsel who's not treating you as a partner, but is just somebody to call off the bench whenever you need a pinch hitter from time to time, that is not how any of this is supposed to work.
And the dynamic that we're talking about is, and I guess you could call it a discrimination in a way. A lawyer who is struggling to make a living is first and foremost trying to please the client. he doesn't realize, or he or she doesn't realize that in the long run, if you're embarrassed, if the expert is embarrassed, you're embarrassed. And if you're embarrassed and the expert's embarrassed, that isn't going to be pleasing to the client. And if it's necessary to have a conversation with the client to say that the position that you're taking is cannot be supported by an expert and therefore can't be supported by me successfully. And if you insist on us doing that, taking that position, that kind of conversation is not something most lawyers want to have. They don't want to lose the account. They don't want to tell a client anything that they don't want to hear. And especially if it's a client who wants to believe what he wants to believe and believes it for that reason. So that conversation had to have taken place. Maybe it's a good idea to have the expert have the conversation, as Judge Yates alluded to. If you're true partners, maybe that's a three-way conversation. But at the end of the day, the blame game will take over. And if the case is lost because the expert got embarrassed, the lawyer is going to blame the expert unless the situation has been set up in a way that he can't. And that's your job, not theirs.
What about the attorneys who will ask experts to give testimony that's beyond the expert's area of expertise? In that case, that I was telling you about, my retaining counsel told me he was hoping to be able to get the real estate testimony in through me, that I would be able to testify to that area in addition to the accounting and damages.
Yeah, I'd be very careful about that, because when you're qualified as an expert, the court is supposed to designate the subject or subjects on which you are entitled to give opinion testimony as an expert. And I would avoid the trap where a retaining counsel wants you to essentially win the case, provide all the elements necessary to support a claim. That is just not what you're supposed to be doing. I would always tell witnesses when I was prepping them, just stay on direct on the questions that I ask you. Don't worry about things that don't get covered. I have lots of witnesses coming in, just putting together an entire presentation here. You don't have to feel that you have to win the case by yourself. And when you have somebody who's asking you, for example, to step out of your area of expertise and essentially fill in for another expert who was not retained, or provide fact testimony in effect because it's lacking otherwise in the record, boy, that's a dangerous spot to be in.
Expert ought to be viewed as an expert and not as a savior.
Yes.
And it's, if the expert is viewed as somebody who's coming in, particularly if it's at the last minute, like the example that we cited earlier, as it is going to save what is now looking like a really loser to begin with, then when it doesn't happen, and it won't, then the next question is, whose fault was that? And that's a debate you don't want to have, because if your fee hasn't been paid in the way that it should have been up front, then you're going to have that problem on top of the other problem.
To complicate it even more, what about the attorney who withholds evidence from an expert? The attorney who picks and chooses which evidence he or she is going to give to the expert, so that when the expert formulates their opinion, that there are things that are missing. There are critical things that are missing.
Yeah, Michael, I've heard you tell a couple of the horror stories of this sort of problem. If you ask for things from your retaining counsel and you feel like you're being stiff-armed or you're being given the runaround, boy, I would think hard about staying on the case, because, as you say, it's pretty easy for a retaining counsel to try to shape your testimony by only giving you the documents that support the theory that the retaining counsel wants you to testify on. And if there's contrary evidence and you're not seeing it, you could be blindsided on cross-examination.
The only thing that can save you in that situation is if the other lawyer is as bad a lawyer as you are.
And I've seen that happen.
Yeah.
But I've seen more situations than I care to count where there's an attorney who's failed to give his or her expert all the evidence. You don't need to read all the deposition transcripts. You don't need all the transcripts. I'm going to send you the ones that are relevant. And I'm going to highlight that testimony that you need to consider.
Right. I mean, that's a sure sign that one of two really bad things is happening. One, they're trying to shape your testimony by letting you see only that which is favorable to their theory, or they're trying to do the case on the cheap and they don't want to pay for you to go through all the materials.
If I could throw something in that has a little, there was a headline in today's paper that a federal judge, and I'm not sure where, because I haven't read the article, I just read the headline. And that way I try to resemble the president of the United States. But it said a federal judge has just ruled that using AI, that if an attorney uses AI, it is neither work product nor privileged. And if that's the case, then the discovery is going to become much more interesting. And that means that whatever role AI is going to play, either in the formulation of an expert witness, it didn't go that, unless I haven't read the opinion, I just read the headline and part of the article. But if that happens, it's going to open a whole new area of inquiry that has heretofore not been there. It would affect the expert because, to the extent that the selection of the expert, and I've had cases where the answer to how did you pick the expert was ChatGPT told me that was the guy to get. But that whole area of where whatever you do with AI and whatever you ask AI, whether you be the expert or you be the attorney, is not considered attorney work product, then it's going to open an area, and I frankly don't know where it's going, but I thought I'd mention it. The other thing is, just so the record is, I believe Judge Adams had indicated that she was not available today to Judge Driscoll, and that's why she's not here. I think she's taking her children, she said, I think she was taking her twins or children to a theater. Although I think our show is just as good as any show you could see on Broadway.
I can tell you she's very enthusiastic about joining our roundtable.
And we're very enthusiastic about having her here. So we'll see her next time.
Yep.
But I know that this is hard to believe, but sometimes the reason that an expert's testimony goes south is not the attorney's fault. Sometimes it's the expert's own fault.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen situations time and time again where experts are not careful enough. I remember getting a phone call from an expert, a local expert, and he said he was just retained in a case to replace another expert. And these are the facts of the case. And he knows that I'm very experienced in that area. And could he just bounce a few ideas off of me? And I said to him, something seems very familiar to me. Give me some of the facts of the case, or let me know the name of the attorney you're working with. Let me know the name of the firm. And sure enough, this guy was brought in as the opposing expert in a case that I was involved in. I was on the other side of the case, and here he is talking to me. Well, he could have shared a lot of stuff with me that his retaining counsel did not want to share, and that it wouldn't be particularly helpful to him and could be problematic. What about the experts? For those of us who are in the business valuation arena, I mean, we're very focused on report writing. My report. I hear experts refer to their reports and everything they get in there, and we train our experts to be excellent, skilled, stellar report writers. And then they rely upon their reports and they get on the witness stand and assume that the jurors have read their reports. How likely is it that a juror will read an expert report?
It's pretty unlikely, both as a matter of law and as a practical matter. First, as a matter of law, the reports typically aren't admitted into evidence because they're hearsay. Now, sometimes the parties will stipulate that the expert reports can come in. So I don't mean to suggest it never happens. Sometimes it happens, particularly in bench trials. If I say I want to see both reports, usually the attorneys will allow the reports to be admitted. But even if they are admitted, as a practical matter, it's your testimony that's going to carry the day. You can't really count on the jurors going back and reading through these lengthy expert reports. I hate to say it, but for better or for worse, the strength of your presentation depends almost entirely on your testimony.
Can you say that again, Judge Yates?
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that your success as an expert, your strength as an expert, depends almost entirely on your testimony.
It's all based upon the words that come out of your mouth.
Yep,
You rely
absolutely.
upon your report too much. Your report in the courtroom is really a roadmap for opposing counsel to cross-examine you.
Yep.
Okay? And you want to leave landmines out of your report. You don't want to overstate anything. You don't want to puff things. You don't want to rely upon evidence that you haven't verified. But from the standpoint of relying upon it, not a good idea. You're going to be persuasive based upon your words. Now, what about the expert who spends a lot of time interviewing counsel's client, interviewing the litigant, be it defendant or plaintiff, and gets a lot of information? All of the purchases, all of the transactions on the American Express card are business. I have another card that I use personally. All of them are business. They're all business. They're entertainment. They're things like that. You don't even have to look at the statements. Okay? I'm glad you're laughing because that happens. And that statement was intended to lead the expert astray.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, show me the statements. I can accept the fact that they're all business, but I need to verify it. If I'm going to assume and include them as business, I need to see with my own eyes. I need to see those statements with my own eyes. And in a case that I can think of right now, one that I had in the past, when push came to shove and I looked at the statements, everything charged to that American Express account was personal. There was not one business dollar on there. You know something? The litigants and the attorneys have their own agendas, and their agendas are different from the expert's agenda. Am I right?
Yes,
And
completely.
anything that anyone tells the expert, it's incumbent upon the expert to verify it. And too many experts just don't verify it. What about aggressive marketing materials? One of the experts that I've encountered, who is a very well-respected expert, I was looking at an ad that he had in a local bar association publication, and the ad said, "We are experts in business valuation. We will provide you with the information that you need to get the case settled. But if the case does not settle, we can provide the expert testimony that will enable you to win your case. Our testimony will enable you to win the case." I think that's problematic. That's food for wonderful cross-examination.
Yep.
And I've seen that time and time again. Things like that, just things on the expert's website. And we can,
I would point out that they're marketing firms that the goal of the marketing firm is to sell the lawyer's services in as comical or dramatic or some combination thereof manner as possible. When you do that, you better make sure that you're not setting yourself up for some to be not taken seriously.
Yep.
And it would have nothing to do with the expert. It would have something to do with the lawyer, but the expert's the one that would suffer.
The expert's the one sitting on the stand.
Yep.
By the way, for Cheryl Hyder's benefit, who says we're giving her PTSD, we are immune.
Right.
That is great. What about, and I know we're at time, aren't we?
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Okay, do we have time for one more or not?
No, we're a little bit behind.
Thank you very much. Our judges, as always, are great. And I look forward to many more of these occasions.
Yeah. Thank you very much,
Thank
everybody.
you, Michael. Thank you, Your
Take
Honors.
care.
Great to see you.
It's always so much wisdom and so much help for us. I wish we started doing this 20 years ago for us. Thank you. All right, so we're gonna move, stay in the legal realm, in the court realm. We're gonna move to Michael Mulder's session and talk about valuation verdicts. This one is an interesting case about discoverability of certain aspects of an expert. So, Michael, you there? I see slides, but I don't hear Michael. I see him. Michael Mulder. There he is.
Sorry about that.
You're good.
All right.
Yeah.
I was so
Lari
caught up
said
in
if you
the
don't show up
judge's
to just make
conversation.
stuff
I
up, and
completely
it's
forgot I
really
was
up to you.
muted.
All right, Michael. We don't have your camera on, but we do
That's
have
fine.
have
You don't need to see me.
All right.
So this is valuation verdicts. There's the case. Jolly versus McLean. It's the Oklahoma Department of Transportation that the litigation involves. And this is a very particular case. It's not about financial forensics or business valuation. It actually has to do with condemnation of property. But the case is all about the discovery of an expert outside of the rules of civil procedure. So what happened in this case, the Oklahoma Department of Transportation was negotiating with Mr. Jolly about getting a piece of his property. I don't recall if the case actually talks about what they wanted to do with it. It might have been for road right of way or some other use. And they tried negotiating. When negotiations failed, they filed a condemnation proceeding, which apparently in Oklahoma is an administrative procedure. Through the administrative procedure, a value was set on the property of $15,000, and the plaintiff thought it was worth more, so the plaintiff went for a jury trial. Department of Transportation identified an expert appraiser for the property, and the plaintiff served a subpoena ducis tecum, which is a very particular process in legal terms. A subpoena ducis tecum is a demand for the production of documents. And what they were looking for, among other things, were 3 years of 1099s that the appraiser had received in condemnation proceedings, regardless of who had retained them. And in particular, any 1099s that they received, and this happened to be 2021 and 2022, for any government client, not just the Department of Transportation, but anybody, any government entity that the expert was doing work for. The Department of Transportation moved to quash the subpoena on the grounds that subpoenas directly to the expert are outside of the rules for discovery. And plaintiff responded that the Department of Transportation didn't have any say in trying to quash the subpoena because they lacked standing, because the Department of Transportation was not the subject or the object of the subpoena. There was a hearing, the trial court granted the Department of Transportation's motion, quashing the subpoena, and plaintiff appealed. So the legal standard is that the Oklahoma Supreme Court generally does not intervene in discovery proceedings. It only has the ability to involve itself in discovery proceedings when the trial court has has abused its discretion in either granting or denying discovery. Abuse of discretion occurs when the trial court has made an error in the law or there is no rational basis for the ruling. Not just that the Supreme Court may have decided it differently, but there is no rational basis. In particular, discovery in Oklahoma is governed by a particular discovery statute that they call the Discovery Code. The standard for discovery in Oklahoma is very similar to federal court, same relevant standard, and they're allowed to pursue otherwise relevant evidence may be excluded if its probative value is substantially outweighed by unfair prejudice, needless repetition, or confusion of the issues. Parties are generally entitled to seek evidence that would tend to show a witness's bias, which is exactly what the plaintiff here was trying to show. They wanted documentation to show that this particular expert, this particular appraiser, does so much work for governments in condemnation proceedings that they would say anything that the state wanted, or the Department of Transportation wanted them to say. And so to them, that was relevant to discovery. Okay, still got a couple minutes. And again, just like in federal court, discovery is pretty much set in the Discovery Code in Oklahoma. It's facts that anything related to the facts or substance of facts or opinions. The qualifications of the expert, in other words, they want the CV, and they can inquire about anything on the CV. Prior testimony for the 4 years preceding the current matter, and the compensation being paid to the expert. So the question before the court was whether or not the list contained in the Discovery Code was exclusive or just a suggestion. So was there a limitation that only allowed discovery into those basically 4 topics, or was that just a highlight of things that you could ask about? And the plaintiff argued that because bias of a witness is always relevant, they should be entitled to get this information. Expert witness, well, that's pretty much obvious. So the court disagreed with the plaintiff's position and concluded that the Discovery Code outlines this discovery scope and limits being an exclusionary language. And so this was not a suggested list of items to inquire about, but it was the actual limitation of what a party could request in terms of information from an opposing party, or from an opposing party's expert, excuse me. Now, given that, nothing actually stops a plaintiff from doing their own investigation. They could look at other cases, they could do searches for other cases that this expert shows up in. They could look on social media for things that this expert has said or done. I believe, although this doesn't address this in the case, that they could probably inquire, do discovery to the Department of Transportation of any other payments that they have made to this expert witness. That might have a different result because you're no longer burdening the expert to produce the information. But the point that the Oklahoma Supreme Court was trying to make with this is that you can do all this investigation, but that's your problem, not the experts. So the things we take away from this, expert discovery is almost always going to be specified in the rules of civil procedure, and it's going to be limited to those particular topics. There can be times where a party can demonstrate to a court that there are extenuating circumstances that allow them to go beyond the specific categories outlined in the rules of civil procedure, but it is not an abuse of discretion, which again is the standard at the appellate level for evaluating the trial court's decision on a discovery motion. It's not an abuse of discretion for a trial court to either grant or deny that inquiry. And that's exactly the thing that you have to be able to, not you, a party has to be able to convince the trial court, and whatever the trial court determines is probably going to be what happens. The case is in the key value data database, case law database. Or if you don't have access to that, you can shoot me an email. Just a preview in the, I want to say May, June issue of the Value Examiner. The case law article or column in that issue is going to also be about the sort of side litigation that happens around expert witnesses. And with that, I'm done, and it goes back to, I believe, Alina.
It's me, thank you. And for all of you, we have our polling question number 5. So remember, this is like a survey related to our first segment. So it is very important for us that you respond to this. And now I have with me, Ian, and I am very happy to introduce Anna Graham. So Anna, we are a little bit early, so you have more time. But Anna is the CEO and founder of Anagram Creates, and she's originally from St. Louis, and now she's based in Madrid. Anna is a brand strategist and marketing expert who specializes in working with professionals and firms in the professional service space. She helps them refine, I can say she helped us refine their messaging, strengthen their visibility, and build personal brands that truly reflect their expertise. And with a strong background in digital marketing and brand strategy, she helps leaders translate years of experience into clear positioning and a meaningful online presence. So with that, Anna, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Alina. And thank you, everyone. I know that maybe marketing is not your favorite topic, but let's get into it. I'll try to make it as painless as possible. But this is a topic that I love. I love branding. And now that personal branding is a thing, I love it. So the presentation today is personal branding in a digital world. We know that we live in a highly digital world. So how can we communicate our expertise with a recognizable presence? So I'm sure a lot of you have been hearing the phrase personal branding, whether you're on LinkedIn, whether it's personal conversations, or maybe you're already on Instagram. But personal branding is huge these days. But at a foundational level, personal branding is how people understand who you are, what you do, and what you stand for without ever having to meet you. So traditionally, when you want to meet a client, typically we have a consultational call, right? And in those 30 to 60 minutes, the client is able to get to know you, understand your personality, your cadence, your tone. But personal branding is almost the prequel to that. This personal branding is allowing people to understand who you are, your hobbies, how you speak, without ever having to meet you. And I know that sounds a little bit maybe out of your comfort zone, but this is how people are consuming content these days. We're on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. constantly scrolling and looking for the person we want to buy from. So, what is personal branding? Well, these circles are overlying each other intentionally because personal branding is these three things put together: reputation, perspective, and personality. You can't just have one without the other. You don't want a personal brand that's all about your reputation, as the same way you don't want a personal brand all about your personality. You need to combine these three things to make a very strong personal brand. But don't worry, what it's not, you're not oversharing. It's not a highlight reel of all of your expertise, all of your accreditations, all these things. And it's not just generic content. So, how I like to picture it in my head, if you have your personal account and you have your business account, your personal brand kind of lies somewhere in the middle. It's a way that someone can kind of peek into the curtain of your life and your world and really understand who you are. So, why is personal branding so important today? Well, it is no secret that the way that all of us are consuming everything is different. Everything has evolved, especially in the marketing and content world post-COVID. And maybe if it's not you, you have to think about your clients. I guarantee your clients are constantly on social media or scrolling some type of forum to understand what you do and who to buy from. So, especially all of us in client-facing roles, this is how you need to speak to your potential clients and gain their trust as quickly as possible. So, a few other reasons why personal branding is so important these days. One, the market is crowded. Everyone should be on social media, especially your business pages. And if you're not on social media yet, that's a conversation we can have separately. But the market is so crowded, so you need a personal brand to help yourself differentiate from everyone else doing the same exact thing. Another reason, skills are easier to replicate than perspective. So for using an accountant as an example, most accountants have the same type of skills. There's a lot of industry standards that everyone has to comply with, but perspective is different. Everyone on this call today has a different history, has different client case studies, has a whole different perspective on their work. And that cannot be replicated. So use your own experience to really boost your personal brand. And lastly, easily enough, people trust people more than digital assets. I mean, we had a whole segment about AI today. And personally, I'm looking for people to trust versus just automations and an AI agent. For example, I'm actively searching for someone to help with my international taxes. Do I want to trust a bot? Or do I want to trust someone who has experience of their own travels and their own tax issues that they can help work with me through that? So that is something that I'm looking at right now. I'm looking at, do they have a business page? Do they have a personal brand page? Who can I trust to help me with something that, is very important right now in my life phase? And this statistic is 74% of Americans say they're more likely to trust someone with an established personal brand. And I am definitely part of that 74%. And just to take one step further, we won't go deep into this, but there really is an importance of a niche. Just like your own business, you are not trying to sell to every single person in the world. So your personal brand, you shouldn't be trying to speak to every single person in the world. So this really where you need to focus on where your passions lay, what's easy to talk about, where have most of your clients been in the past? Are you focusing more on women? Are you focusing more on solopreneurs? Are you focusing on more B2B? So this is really where you're going to start pulling your expertise and your passions to really position your personal brand into something powerful. And why it works, well, it makes the messaging a lot more clearer. And the big goal is you're going to start attracting those dream clients and they're going to start empathizing and sympathizing with your personal brand. So the goal, you just want more aligned clients, right? We all want a perfect client contacting us every single day. And so this example, if you're wanting to start a personal brand based out of being a fractional CFO, that's too generic. We need to kind of up it up. So the example might be a fractional CFO that supports female founders by managing the financial side of their business so they can focus on what they do best. So going off of that, I wanted to showcase some real life examples because I think it's easier to understand personal brands and how they differ from your business page by examples. So, as many of you know, Alina Rivera here with us today. I help Alina with her social media. So when we started working together, I was primarily focusing on just her business page. And Alina is a evaluator and a fractional CFO. And historically, this type of company is more corporate driven, professional, structured, a little bit more masculine. But if any of you know Alina, that's not necessarily her personality. Alina is very vibrant, very fun. And we wanted to showcase more of her cultural background. So that's why we decided to create her personal brand. So we created the Latina Financial Queen. And Latina Financial Queen was born about 6 months ago. And so this is a great way to kind of showcase the two different versions. So we have Advising Puerto Rico on the left, which is a lot just for business owners in general. But then you have the Latina Financial Queen on the right, which is focused a lot more on female founders, females raising a family and building a business, females who maybe relate more with Spanglish than just English. So she kind of found a niche market, and then that's how we're building towards that. I wanted to just also show maybe the contrast between a business page and a personal brand page if we're focusing on a specialty medical consultant. So again, just to kind of go over, the business page on the left is a lot more structured, more educational, informative. These are things someone could probably Google or ask AI, and it would come up with similar answers. But again, your business should have a defined brand on its own. So everything you're creating on social media should reflect your brand in some way. But again, the business page is going to be a little bit more educational and informative. So again, if we're talking about a specialty medical consultant, maybe the topics are 3 ways to build a healthier workplace culture in medical practices, how to handle difficult conversations between physicians and staff, how front desk interactions shape patient experience. Whereas on the personal brand page, so the consultant herself or himself may have these posts on their separate page. Behind the scenes of a day on site, what keeps me grounded while constantly on the go, and the conversation I seem to have with every practice leader. So right here, you can see that the business page is going to be, again, okay, I understand what they do. Maybe a doctor needs to access one of these, how to have a difficult conversation with one of my staff members. Okay, got it. They seem to, I understand what they do. If I need their help in the future, great. I can have that consult call with them. But the personal branding page, maybe they're not ready to schedule a consult call yet, but there's 3 different consultants in this niche that they're thinking about working with. And one of them doesn't have social media at all. One of them only has a business page, and one of them has this personal page that showcases how they handle circumstances, how they handle difficult conversations, that they're actually going on site with their clients. So there's a higher chance that that person is going to contact the person with the personal branding page because they can relate to this person. They can see what they're doing, how they're approaching situations. So I think this is a great way to just show how you can have both, but equally differentiate them. Another interesting statistic that I saw was that financial audiences trust leaders with visible personal brand 6 times more than leaders without one, which I thought that was quite astonishing because this is even in kind of the niche that we're talking with today, financial audiences, not just audiences in general, but specific to financial audiences. And okay, if you're thinking, all right, Anna, this all sounds great, but I don't even know how to get started here. Well, start where you already are. I'm not asking you to go and create 5 new accounts, dedicate 5 hours a week to this. Just start where you're already at. So are you on LinkedIn already? Are you already creating a weekly newsletter? Do you have blogs on your website? This is where you can start getting a little bit more personal, a little bit like opening up that curtain to your house a little bit more. Like potential clients, now you can see how I'm navigating my day-to-day. This is my perspective on X topic, Y topic, right? So you can, even after today, this NACFA webinar, if you had a great takeaway, go to create a LinkedIn post about it, but put your own perspective on top of it, not just relaying a statistic, right? We always want to add your personality. And so when you start where you're already at, then you can transition to where is your audience? Because at the end of the day, our audience is what matters. We don't want to just stay where our audience is never looking. So if your target audience are females in their 40s, maybe head to Instagram. If you're more in B2B, stay on LinkedIn. But again, this is not something that you need to go and invest so much time and energy towards. It's just something that if you're already posting on LinkedIn, make one more post a week that's more about you, what you're doing. Do you love to golf? Do you love to ski? Do you attend one conference every month? You could do a series about that, right? So it's just, what do you already have going on in your life, and just start weaving that in. And if you're like me, I like to have very, very tangible takeaways on, like, okay, I heard this cool topic today, but what can I do right now after this webinar or later this week to start this? So if you're interested in starting your own personal brand, here are some steps you can even do today. So number one, you need to define your goal and your niche. Think about that. If you are not sure if you want to be, maybe you really like to golf, but you also really like tennis, but then maybe you also really like 5 other things. Start just narrowing down. Think about your dream clients and who you're really trying to speak to. The next one is you want to start taking inventory. So grab your device, go through your camera roll, and make a new album that's literally titled Personal Brand. Start adding pictures, start adding, like, if you have group pictures from past conferences, if you have pictures of you golfing, if you have pictures of your yearly family trip, you can start slowly adding these pictures to an album. So when the time comes that you're ready to start this personal brand, you already have something tangible you can start with. Again, start small. This should not be a whole marketing initiative. This is something that you can start a little bit this week, a little bit next week. And as time goes on, you'll have a bigger personal brand. Next thing you could do even today is start thinking about a series. So this is the easiest way to start, is if you have a weekly series, tips I learned from the green, valuation tips from the slopes, right? This is something that you can start posting weekly or monthly that people are start to understand. Okay, Alina posts valuation tips from, I'm just making this up, this is not a current series, but valuation tips from the beach. I know that she's going to at least post weekly about some type of valuation tip. I'm going to head over there and I'm going to get a picture of a gorgeous Puerto Rican beach. So just start to thinking of series that you could create. And the last and sometimes most scary is just start posting. I know it's hard to click that post button, but once you start, it gets easier with time. And a last statistic that I have for today is 82% of people say they trust companies more when leadership is active online. So again, I fall into all these statistics, so I don't know about you. And just to kind of round up, I did go ahead and make a download that I have hooks, prompts, and series concepts that you all could, if you scan this QR code, it gets you to a page on my website. And I made like a downloadable so you can, it's a summary of this presentation as well as some prompts, hooks, and series concepts that you can take as your own. I tried to make them a little bit more for your niche, but I do always recommend, if you find things from AI or generic online, please make them to your own and your own brand. That's the importance. People can identify, copy and paste anywhere these days. So this is a great starting point. So if you're feeling stuck, scan the QR code. I got you from there. If you have any questions, please let me know. I am happy to help. I know a lot of times putting yourself out there, being vulnerable with your audience, you're not sure, okay, what should I post? What should I not post? Even if you just want to have a conversation, I'm happy to help. My my name is Anagram, hence my business name, Anagram Creates. So there's my email, my website, and feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. But thank you so much. And hopefully you got something today. But if not, it's something to at least think about.
Thank you, Anna. It's great. I think with the new generations, it's different, right? In terms of reaching out to clients. So we appreciate your time today. For the rest, you have the last polling question, so you make sure that you respond to that. And we are just at the end of our show. So thank you for joining us. You are invited to attend our next month broadcast that is not March. It's going to be in April. So it's going to be April 2026. I think I have the date in here. It's going to be April the 20th. So we will see you in our next show next month. Bye-bye.